an actual raw material or a sub-assembly or an FG, right? Post as is. We don't stock the sub-assembly. So you post as raw material and post as RM. So that is an explode bomb, explode bomb. TRN type. I just need to go through the notes and confirm this because I think it was an expense issue and it had a specific GL code. Okay, so that would take the stock out of work in progress. It will minus it out of work in progress, and then that entry, the round value of it will go to a specific GL code. That's how it was done. I'll need to confirm this portion, if that is the transaction type, and then we'll have to get confirmation of the GL code from finance. But the work came here, identifying at the outset what your posting warehouse is going to be, all right? And then on the screen, what you're capturing, if it is raw material, if they're scrapping a bag of connectors, you know, that is the absolute raw material. Just go and post it minus connector from work in progress, you know. If they capturing a sub-assembly, you have to explode it to the raw material and minus the raw material. And it's the same for finished goods. If it is a harness that they're scrapping, then you would go and minus explode it to the raw material and minus it from the raw material in work in progress. That's the natural course of events. This didn't take into account that you'd actually be dumping raw material in work in progress. And that was supposed to be handled from a rework process. You know, this was that there's items being sent either from the production line itself that was going to get scrapped. Rework was a separate scenario. So at that time, that activity was not coming via the production line. It was the harness that was scrapped. Before it went back into production line. So this was written off as finished goods stock. It wasn't. It was now not written back as we have to write off raw material. It was written off as finished goods stock because it existed in the system as finished goods. This is a different process. This entire scrapping process was purely to handle raw material in work in progress. And any sub-assembly or finished goods coming out of the production line was now it had been prior to backflush. In your scenario, Brad, is there anything that's going to break this rule?
No, I don't think so. I don't really see. We haven't really set this up yet, Hussein. So we this is what we're talking about now, how we want to set it up. What we've
Yeah,
created so far just does the capturing. So it captures it, it knows which plant it came from. But we now need to decide how we want to implement
yeah.
the Cisco
So
side of it. So none of that's done. So there's no we defining the rules here.
yeah, so that determines the transaction that you're going to be doing. So once you backflush it, then you literally go into this exercise.
Yeah, this thing isn't for scrapping backflashed harnesses though. But I
Yeah.
mean, why if we scanned a finished goods harness, why can't we scrap the whole harness? If we want to,
Technically, if it's coming off that before backflush, it doesn't exist as a harness in Syspro yet.
yeah, but once if it was scrapped after, I mean, we should technically be able to do it.
That's this exercise. Once it's backflushed,
But
then you do
that's a
that's
rework exercise.
OQC fail harness after backflush.
Yeah, it's
Right.
it's very unlikely because it's backflashed after QC. So
No, both happens.
yeah,
On the line before backflush, it's failed and or damaged or whatever the story that happens. And that's this scenario. And then if it is failed after backflush or from a rework process, then it is this scenario where you write it off because it already exists as stock in Syspro, right? When it doesn't exist as a harness in Syspro, this is the transaction that needs to happen.
yeah. Okay, so we just need to confirm that it's an expense issue that we want to do.
Yeah. So that portion I'll give to you, but that means everything here is as raw material. No matter what your capturing says, you need to break it down back to raw material. Okay. All before backflush, anything after backflush is a separate type of transaction. And this has to be very careful, this portion. Because there's inline production rework and then there's return from customer rework. So this could exist before backflush or it could exist after.
Yeah, but that's not part of this program. I mean, we're not.
Yeah, so if we isolating to this, then this scenario must only exist for this posting to happen.
Yeah, this is literally stuff we're putting into the scrap bin. Yeah, it's like going in a scrap bin. That's where what it is.
I understand that.
Yeah,
Understand that. It was
yeah,
previously the cage and
yeah,
the cage was coming from the production line itself.
yeah, yeah.
You
So
know,
reworks have nothing to do with this, what we're
okay.
talking about.
Rework was a separate cage and
Yeah,
or department on its own, and that's a separate business process. Okay.
yeah.
So yeah, in terms of pure production, prior to backflush, you will post as raw material. That must happen. The whole thing was that you had to identify on the screen, and then your capturing data is separate.
What do you have to
Uh,
identify on the screen?
huh?
What do you have to identify on the screen?
Raw material being scanned or captured, sub-assembly or finished goods. Because then your
Why?
auditor, your auditor.
Why do you need to know that? Because what if what if it's sleeving that's on a as part of a let's say it's a piece of sleeving that's manufactured here. We make our own sleeving. What are we scrapping there?
So in that in my scenario, that was raw material because it wasn't stocked as a sleeve, you know, at that time.
But it is now.
So that's falling as a subassembly then.
Yeah, but do you have to tell the system that it's a subassembly or
Because we
well,
have to do this explosion to bill of material to post it.
when don't we do the explosion to bill of materials? Tell me a scenario when we don't.
when the item is stocked as as a sub-assembly or finished goods in that warehouse. This here, what is stocked in that warehouse that you're gonna write off stock as?
Well, that's a good question because let's go back to my example. What is sleeving in the whip warehouse?
So my understanding is that it was still raw material in the 30-meter roll. And
Yeah.
if you're capturing the 10 centimeter here, you have to post as what was it? 0.010, I think.
Okay, but where does it go from being plastic pellets to being that sleeving? When does that surely it has to be backflushed for that to happen?
Oh yeah, sorry, that would have then been
So
posted as the pellet itself.
but then that's not what's on the bill of materials. So it's essentially what I'm getting at here. Do we just break everything down to its raw materials? Because isn't that just a rule? Whatever it is, if it's not bought out, you can't scrap it. So we're looking for the bought out items that is why can't whatever's
And posting
scanned
it
just be
here.
broken it down to its raw materials? My only question is when we've got something like sleeving, in the future, when we start backflushing that sleeving in the area where it's made and then we do a transfer, then we should be not breaking it down to its raw materials because the pellets should never actually be stocked. Like currently, the pellets that make up the sleeving that we make in house should never be stocked in our whip area
So
because they're not made in that whip area.
correct, but it is currently how it's transacted into the
Yes.
work area. Yeah.
Yes, so
So and that's
currently we can just break everything down. We don't need to know whether it's a sub-assembly or a finished good or a raw material. We've got to break it down to raw materials, whatever it might be.
okay. But if they actually put a raw material, then it doesn't need to do all that work. Because you're gonna get an error, doesn't made an item bill doesn't exist, you know.
Yeah, well, you're going to see it. I mean, you can put
Okay.
this in the
So
program that does this work. You can say, well, this is a made-in part. We need to figure out what it's. So you look into the BOM, you break it down to its raw materials. What is this made-in part made of? And then scrap those items. And we could always do that as a rule, can't we? Or am I missing something?
no, correct. The rules of engagement of the, you know, what we need to do for any combination of things, we need to start off with this and then go to what the new business process is as they defined. So they always asking for extracts of that. They audit it and what you capture and what you post. They want to see the journals and all of that. So that storage of, you know, when we're doing this, and then you're posting this set of data to Syspro, that needs to be stored as the posted data and the captured data needs to be the original source data.
Timberlishley, you're going to need to just also investigate what Hussein was saying earlier about finance not being involved. Why were they involved originally, and do they need to be involved? We need to figure out whether it's necessary that someone in finance is, proving these things or why they did it traditionally.
Zimba is yeah.
Means correct. All the part number.
That is an approval. He's validating it before he's posting to Syspro. because the capturing, could have been duplicated. There could be errors on capturing, and they would check it before posting to SysPro. If it needs to happen, or if it doesn't need to happen, it's a change in process that needs to be communicated when it's current plant A. I know the plant B and C is um, potentially not happening now. Would the I think what department? Zumba is in costing, I think, is it? Yeah. So but they are doing it for plant A. Okay, so that's all the top end concepts that I had related to the program. So there was or is potential for that the capturing versus the posting is, crossing over. It might happen on the last day of the month and get posted into the new month type of thing. Because of your validation and approval processes, there could be delay between capturing and posting to SysPro.
I also just have a question. I just want to find out what business object we are going to use when we do these transactions to SysPro.
So inventory movement for expense issues. I'll just confirm that. Huh?
Okay.
I'll share this with you all shortly.
Because where does the financial values from this transaction go? So obviously we're going to write off stock.
After it gets into SysPro, that's your raw material, posting.
Yes. So
Yeah.
you're obviously going to have credits and debits against that stock code. But where's the money? Where are we putting the money for that? Because there's also going to be a recovery when that scrap is actually sold. We need to consider how's that all tied together, because if we scrap something that's got a copper value of 10 rand and it cost us 15 rand, so we've scrapped off the 15. Now we sell it and we get 10 rand back. That 10 rand should also surely financially be all together in one
Yeah.
account, or I wonder what the financial
They didn't
setup
really
is for this.
close the loop, and and we didn't attempt it here in this exercise.
Okay.
In this
Okay.
exercise, but basically a sale would have gone to sales for scrap, because it wasn't
Yes.
stock code level type of thing. They were doing a non-stock entry
Yes.
on that. So they didn't really attempt to try back to the actual scrap weighing in
Yeah.
that storage process. And potentially I would have preferred for them to change that, in that if we're storing scrap in a scrap warehouse, then you go and sell from that warehouse, you
Yeah.
know, type
You
of
should
thing.
get that value back for
Yeah,
that
then
scrap in that warehouse.
there's a direct connection to what was scrap versus what you sold out. And now, or as I understood, that they were still, or potentially still doing it as non-stock. So they currently isn't a direct um, in and out. And we could move it to that. After this is implemented, we could move it to that. But then you'll have a further transaction in that on post, you would then scrap warehouse. Um,
There's additional problems to this now, though, because we've also got a scrap processing area.
stock
You
code.
said. So we've now got a scrap processing area at plant B, and the scrap from plant A goes there. So it would make it more complicated because all the scrap gets put together before it's sold.
Before it's sold.
Yeah.
So then you would post as a scrap stock code, and that would be, like convert this to copper, PVC type of thing.
Okay.
And that will be your actual stock code in a scrap warehouse, and then you will sell copper. So if you converted your 20 meters of wire that you scrapped off here, you scrapped off 20 meters of wire in that process, then what is the weight in copper? You'll have to convert that.
Yeah.
And that is your storage for scrap warehouse, and then you will sell weight in copper. That's
Okay.
a whole other business process as
Yeah.
a third part to the transaction.
It's almost like a byproduct, eh?
Correct.
Like
Correct.
yeah.
And you have, this will be your minus RM, okay? And then this will, be your plus scrap code. Scrap code. It's like you're adjusting stock from one stock code to another stock code. So this will become a future transaction, And that really is the way to close the entire loop. And then you go away from selling non-stock, you go to actually selling your scrap stock code.
Okay. Maybe we need to do this in two phases then. Maybe we've got to do the first bit where it doesn't
Yeah.
tie it all together, and then phase 2 we try and tie those things together.
Correct. You have to
Uh,
get this bedded down, and then you get to this portion.
Yeah.
Okay, I sent this off to y'all. And then we can recap on this. If we need to define a little bit more.
Okay, can we just confirm the business objects that we'll use, and then we can start looking at what parameters? Because things like the GL, you obviously you can have to specify which GL codes are involved, and for the warehouses, and that all needs to be set up somewhere.
So if you link it to when they choose the plant ID in the first before capturing, then you literally get this out of that configuration.
Do you
So
have
if
that,
your
Timberly?
drop down list at the start point is plant A, then you got that configuration.
Yeah, and then but what about the GL code? Because aren't there going to be GL codes involved?
No, only this one at this point. When you're posting,
Was there one for the whole of Hesto?
we'll need to define that.
Yeah, I think we just need to check that, because as far as I know, at this point, each Toyota should have one, Ford should have one, and Isuzu should have one. But we
Yeah,
just
we need
to check that.
We'll need to double check that. Because from when we were doing the integration for the plants A to C move, and we asked them to confirm, they didn't bother any differentiation. They just threw everything together, so accounts, that is. When
Okay,
we're
it'll
getting
make
them to
life easier.
authorize.
It'll make life easier if it's like that. So
Yeah, so if it is like that and not separated, we could do this application. We could do it. If they're not reporting it now and only report it in the future, we've already set it up to do what it needs to do.
So I mean, for me,
So
hours.
we could do that on your configuration, and if it's all the same, doesn't matter. Because each of these will post separately. You're not going to combine entries on journal posting. This batch on screen is going to be posted, and that batch is only tied to one capturing.
okay.
Because you want one journal for this batch, and you're not going to combine entries to post from different batches. So if we start the configuration on this basis, then and they're all the same, it's fine. If they decide to separate at any given point, we just change the configuration and they can carry on with that. If we want to do it now, that we can confirm that. When I report back to you on this one, we can confirm that one.
Okay, Timberlisha, is there anything else we need for today?
These are all table changes, all this to make sure that you get that out. So the posting becomes easier if you're storing it. If you're gonna get the audit out of it. I was asked last week for that audit as well. And also the plant manager asked for it. That one for the query for the plant A and Isuzu. And they wanted valuation out of it.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I was just checking my notes over there. I think this was stock adjustment.
But does that alone do, or is it not more than just that transaction? Because it's stock
It's just a
adjustment
minus-
alone.
It's just a minus stock adjustment, yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna find if there was anything specific done for it in terms of GL code. I'll confirm that one. I just have a note here. It was posting that the stock adjustment business object. I'll dig out and find if there was any specific GL code that was related to it. Okay, I'll find that if there's anything related to GL codes, and then I'll come back to you on that one.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.